Hello, everyone. Welcome back inside the Woody Hayes Athletic Center. It is Friday. You know what that means. Well, actually, you don't because we haven't done it since December. It's Bold Predictions Friday. That's Tim May, the 40-year vet. That's Matt Parker, Andy Backstrom. Tim, you've been around for a lot of spring games. I'm not sure
what that means. Go ahead.
I believe 40 of them. If you
this
don't,
will be the 40th.
If we take attendance, I think this is your 40th spring game. You've seen a lot of breakout performers. You've seen a lot of things happen in spring games that are not indicative whatsoever of what's to come in the fall. I believe no one in the world will overreact to anything that happens tomorrow in the Horseshoe, but you are going to give us a bold prediction on what you think will happen in that old 100-year-old stadium, 101-year-old stadium.
I am believing, I've been watching it like you have, and Andy and Matt have. I'm a believer in the resurgence of the cornerback room. With that said, my bold prediction will be Davis and Igbinosun gets at least one pick on Saturday.
Okay.
This guy is the real deal. And that cornerback room with him, Denzel Burke, Jordan Hancock, and Jair Brown, I like that room. And I like what they bring to the table. But Davis and Igbinosun has flashed many times we've gotten to watch practice this year. He's flashed in almost every one of those to me. So David Igbinosun with at least one pick.
Matt.
I've dived so deep. Well, first off, it's nice to be back here with you guys. It's been a long time since November, but nice to see you all.
What's his name again?
Yeah. But anyway,
he was on my podcast this week. Check it out.
I've been doing the recruiting stuff for so long. It's like I'd rather talk about that, and that's the direction I'm going to take my bold prediction.
Okay.
So I think I'm going to predict that Ohio State will get not one, not two, not three, but 4 commitments out of the spring game on Saturday. There's quite an impressive guest list that you can check out on lettermenrow.com. It was on there on Monday, I think. I threw up the early one. We'll have one on Friday as well today. Confirmed one as well on Saturday. But just knowing the names, knowing some things that are happening behind the scenes, the Buckeyes are red hot or scarlet hot, if you will, on the recruiting trail.
I like that.
Recruiting trail right now. And This is the pinnacle event of Ohio State spring football. There's going to be 55,000 plus fans in there for practice. That's what this is glorified practice. And when you are 16, 17 years old, going to a practice that happens to be in the Horseshoe, one of the blue blood programs in the country, I think there will be a few guys that say, you know what, it's April 15th. This is where home's going to be for the next 3 years.
I'd like to protest his bold prediction because it
Tell me what you know.
Reminds me of when Kevin Costner told the batter what pitch was coming in Bull Durham, and then the guy hits it off the bull, I think, out in right field or whatever. I think this man has some, he's pretty well attached as our recruiting guru. I think he has inside knowledge.
Well, Tim, you've been watching Davis and Igbinosun impress all spring.
I guess that's inside knowledge, but it still has to happen. See, my thing still has to happen.
Four people out of just 25 in a class still have to say, I want to be in.
I just like Matt. I like calling him on the carpet occasionally.
All right, well, let's get back on the rails here. Andy?
Yeah, maybe an easy pick, but I'm going Carnell Tate as my breakout performer. I think we've all seen how he can put on a show here in the Woody during spring practice. I think he'll put on another show in the Horseshoe this Saturday. I have him with 2 touchdowns in this game, whether that's catching passes from Tristan Gebbia or Kyle McCord, or even some of the walk-on guys. I think he'll have good success against the defense this weekend. Okay,
well, I'm standing in between the president and vice president of the Jelani Thurman fan club. Neither of you guys cared to mention them, so I guess I'll take it. I think he's going to
only get to name one.
Yeah, I think
thought the rule was.
I think
he's already named 4.
I think he's going to
I didn't name 4.
That's right. He's already predicted 4.
Well, I'm going to get to my bold prediction now.
Okay.
Sorry.
I'm gonna predict a touchdown for Jelani Thurman. I just think that
one.
Yeah, there's like 6 tight ends in that room, and it's a spring game. You shuffle through a lot of guys. I have no clue who's going to be throwing the passes to him. Could be a walk-on. Could be Kyle McCord. It's not going to be Devin Brown. I know that. They seem to have some chemistry. That's why I was a little reluctant to make this pick here, because I do think he's developed that with Devin Brown, maybe a little more than with Kyle McCord, but I think he's going to get a lot of run because there's no reason to have Cade Stover out there very much. There's no reason to have even like a Joe Royer out there for a lot. He's a veteran who's got experience. G. Scott maybe the same way. You'll see a lot of Bennett Christian. You'll see a lot of Sam Hart. And you'll see a lot of Jelani Thurman. I think Jelani's going to haul in a touchdown. Now, fellas.
Don't you think they're? I mean, this is my impression. I think they're fast tracking him because they see the potential of this guy in the fall.
I agree.
I mean, he's a matchup nightmare in the red zone, in my opinion. 6'6", 6'5", 6'6", depending on which place you look. 255 pounds or whatever. He's going to get bigger under Mickey Marotti. I think they see that he's not necessarily a diamond in the rough. He's already showing up, and I think they're fast tracking him for playing time in the fall. We'll see if I'm wrong. I really like him.
I think that he's been impressive, but I also know that, I asked Keenan Bailey about Bennett Christian, who's been really impressive this spring, has been under the radar because everybody wants to talk about Jelani, and rightfully so, guys. I'm not saying that
this
not
isn't
to.
a slam on those other guys. I'm just talking about Jelani.
You look out here after practices, and I see Bennett Christian almost every day, getting more reps afterward. That stuff shows up. And when you've already been through a summer, you've already been through a fall, you know how to game plan after a year sitting there. That's not a guy that I'm just willing to say, okay, Jelani Thurman's jumping him right now. And so, I will hit the brakes a little bit following the spring game. But Jelani, catch a touchdown in the spring game, make me look smart until then, and then we'll talk about pumping the brakes. Tim, I know that we just talked about Jelani. Are you going to take him as your breakout player? Because if so, I'm going to go to someone else so we don't just continue to talk about him.
Well, I mean, what's the difference between what we just picked and this?
Well, okay, so
here's the guy. C.J. Hicks, to me, has also flashed every time I've gotten to watch practice. I would like to name about 5 guys on defense.
One.
But I'm going to go with C.J. Hicks because number one, he's going to have the opportunity on Saturday, barring injury, because Devin Brown wasn't hurt, 3 days ago, and now he had a medical procedure. I like that word.
That's 2 words.
Yeah, but yes, I like that phrase.
There you go.
But yeah, I mean, C.J. Hicks to me is a guy who is pressing, and now with Tommy Eichenberg missing, from full contact, and of course Steel Chambers out until the summer as he recovers from his medical procedure. C.J. Hicks is a guy that I think is opening a lot of eyes.
Matt?
We've spent a lot of time this spring, or rather you guys have, but you guys spent a lot of time this spring talking about the emergence of Kenyatta Jackson and the rest of Caden Curry, the rest of this defensive line depth. But a name that, physically that we have seen, Amari Abor. That's a
looks
guy
bigger.
He certainly looks the part.
Yes.
He looks the part. And I think Saturday is going to be a great opportunity with this puzzle piece that is the offensive line, or this puzzle that is the offensive line that they're trying to piece together. Amari Abor is a guy that I want to see on the other side figure out the puzzle, and then from there attack and dominate and assert himself somewhere in that rotation. That's that defensive line rotation is something that, Ryan Day said it on Wednesday, that they're a little concerned about the depth on the defensive line. Now, granted, Ohio State does get Jason Moore coming this summer, does get Caden McDonald coming this summer as well, 2 members from the 2023 recruiting class, both very highly thought of as well. I believe Jason Moore finished as a top 50 prospect. But this is a moment for Amari Abor to really dominate and assert himself into the conversation.
Talk about a moment for someone to seize. It's Josh Fryer. I feel like, a lot of eyes are on this offensive line. You have to replace 3 starters, and I feel like a lot of people are looking at that position as what is the most important on the offensive line. Coming off guys off the edge, you got JT Tuimoloau, you got, Jack Sawyer coming off the edge. This is a hard team to practice against, and if you can pass that test, especially when you got 50,000 plus people watching in the stadium, that'll give a lot of people confidence. Not that you need to please fans. Everyone would like to as a player, but that's an opportunity to kind of show people, hey, we're okay here. I know it's not full go, but it is live with the guys coming off the edge. They're still trying to get to the quarterback in a way.
Well, yeah. When we got to talk to Ryan on Wednesday, he brought up that fact that this time a year ago, they weren't totally sold on Paris Johnson Jr. at left tackle. It's such a huge position. And number 2, he kind of said the same thing about Josh Fryer, because I think most of us thought they were going into spring replacing really 2 starters on the offensive line, plus Josh Fryer is going to be one. So that we have 3 back. And now, but man, is he going against some talent like you brought up? That's a tough practice every day.
That's why, even though it's a spring game, it's still a prove-it moment.
Yeah.
You still got these guys flying off. Even though they can't technically sack the quarterback in the same way you would in a game, they're still coming with speed and
Yeah,
power.
yeah.
And so that's a test for him.
Oh man, the whole show I've just been thinking, Malik Hartford, Kojo Antwi. Malik Hartford. Both those guys I've been impressed with as under the radar guys. I'm going to go ahead though because this is a spring game and they love throwing the ball in the spring game and it's going to be 80 degrees. Kojo Antwi is my breakout player of the spring game. I think that that's a guy who, you know, he's going to go against maybe a couple second-team cornerbacks,
Yep.
and that's going to make him, you know, maybe look a little better. But I also think that he's looked good against guys that Tim has mentioned, Davison Igbinosun. We saw him, you know, as Andy likes to say, absolutely moss Davison Igbinosun in a rep. It's one rep down in the end zone over there, but it was an impressive rep, and I've seen him go across the middle a couple times. I've seen him go deep a couple times. The quarterbacks seem to find him as a second-year player who you know isn't going to touch the top of the depth chart, but there's a middle of that depth chart that is nowhere near settled at wide receiver. We know Jaden Ballard's taken a step maybe closer to the top of it than to the middle of it, but Kojo Antwi, somebody's got to fill that void of non-freshmen that can play if you're in a pinch. Caleb Burton's missed time. Keon Grace has missed time.
Yeah.
Kojo Antwi has not missed time, and he's been at practice every day, and he's working hard, and you see him taking all those reps. You see him take the mental reps. He's a really smart guy. He's, you know, Ohio State did their homework on him. They got him over, I think, Georgia, Texas A&M. Like, programs around the country wanted Kojo. He chose to be here. He's not choosing to go anywhere else. And I think that he's got a chance to kind of flash in the spring game, especially, you know, as all of these wide receivers are out. They need guys to step up and show that the next wave is coming. I think Kojo Antwi is part of that.
I was just laughing while you were saying it because I just remember that session we had with Brian Hartline and when we were talking about Jaden Ballard and like, wow, you know, we've seen some good things. He, you know, he still wants to see more from Jaden Ballard. You
Yeah.
know what I mean? I mean, he kind of threw cold water on the idea that this is now Jaden Ballard's turn, his spring to, you know, stepping up because, like you just said, the competition in that room. Man, you got to do it every play. Forget about every day.
Yeah.
You got to deliver every play. I mean, that is what it's all about in that room. And Carnell Tate, I mean, wow. I mean, a lot of guys have come along in the spring. I mean, I remember Marvin Harrison Jr. in the spring really liked the way this guy went around and, you know, ran routes and caught the football. Carnell Tate looks very similar to me the times we've gotten to watch him play. So for Kojo Antwi, for example, this is a moment, you know,
Well, and Tim, you
to
know,
seize the moment.
I don't want to spend too much time on my breakout. I feel like I'm hogging the show here, but like there's this weird thing in that wide receiver room right now, and I think a lot of you guys would agree with me, is like everyone knows the top, these first-round draft picks. Marvin Harrison Jr., first-round draft pick. Julian Fleming could become a top-level draft pick if he proves it on the field this year. Emeka Buka is probably a first-round draft pick. Jaden Ballard, you know, is asserting himself up there, you know, maybe as a potential difference maker for this offense. Then you have these freshmen who everyone wants to see. And then, like I said, there's that middle, and it almost feels like the fan base and a lot of people around the program feel like there's a void there. There's a void to be filled, though. And it's not just filled by Xavier Johnson, who gets on the field and makes plays. It can be filled by some of those 2022 guys who maybe have been a little disappointing compared to what we thought. But like Kojo Antwi has shown this spring, he can fill that void. And so I just think that he's a guy to watch.
And disappointing is maybe not the right. I mean, disappointing because we haven't gotten to see them play much because the guys above them
Are so good.
rarely left the field. I
Yeah.
mean, you know, it's like it's tough. I mean, but when you get a factory going like they've got for wide receivers here now, I mean, you know, Brandon Ennis isn't even here yet. I mean, you know, he may be the best of the lot, you know, from that. Although Carnell Tate, man, but it's interesting. That's why the spring game is so cool to watch. Who's going to flash enough to where you know they're going to be there in the fall in the same situation? Like you brought up a while ago, Bam Childress was a spring game star, but then for whatever reasons he couldn't get on the field or stay on the field enough. This is a guy from the past, but to me, Saturday is really key for several of those guys. I'm glad you brought him up.
Every day Ohio State has charted winner, loser. I don't see Saturday being any different.
No.
Matt,
Oh, there's
I'm
steak
gonna
and beans on
I'm gonna start with Matt instead of with Tim because Tim and I just had a little nice dialogue here. Matt,
Yeah, Andy and I are falling asleep over here.
winner loser
Falling
day.
asleep. You know, you should have been paying rapt attention.
Winner loser day, Matt, on
Guru.
Saturday in the Horseshoe. Winner, defense or offense? Loser, defense or offense? Who you got?
You're sounding like you're holding the mic.
Oh, yeah.
In Ohio State practice. This time of year, the defense is always just a a little bit more ahead in
Yeah.
the trenches, and you see that there. This is year 2 in the Jim Knowles system. We've seen some ridiculous plays out here made by the defense, which are being overshadowed by the ridiculous catches that we have seen by the offense. But I mean, how many times have we seen, JT, Jack, Kenyatta Jackson, Michael Hall, someone on that defensive line in the backfield sacking the quarterback? I think by a slight margin, I think they're gonna, at the end of the day, the winners will be the defense. Not by much, but just by enough to get it
Of
done.
the Stableford scoring system.
Who you got?
I'm going with offense. I think maybe the first team defense will have the edge and they'll have like the lead per se. But I feel like when you get to the second team, the third team, offense can take over in a spring game. And I feel like that'll be the case. Maybe that's where Kojo gets a couple touchdowns or something like that.
Wow.
But I don't know.
Relegating my guy all the way to the third team. Okay.
No, I'm saying second team reps. I'm just saying
Yeah.
that's where those guys usually stand out in these spring games. And so I think the offense will eventually take over.
Imagine being a coach. I didn't ask Ryan Day this today just because it's sort of other guys that talked about similar things. But imagine the conundrum you're in. Because as you leave here on Saturday, would you rather be feeling damn good about your defense, which you weren't when you left the Mercedes-Benz Stadium in the game against Georgia, when for want of another term, the collapse came in the fourth quarter of that game? Would you rather be feeling so much better about your defense than you did on that day? Or would you be rather feeling, oh my goodness, this offense, man, we're going to light them up again. We're going to score a lot of points, make a lot of yards. We got a quarterback that can freaking spin it. I mean, right on down the line. I think that's quite the conundrum. I think the defense has a lot to prove, not just to themselves, but to fans and even the coaching staff, et cetera. So I'm leaning more toward the defense making plays, but they have to stack up stuff, The offense can score 6 points in a heartbeat. So I'm looking at the defense to win the day.
I think it was 2 years ago I watched the defense dominate the entire spring game, and
they still lost.
And then Ryan Day sent out a walk-on quarterback to throw to Sam Wiggles to score a touchdown on
That's what you got to look out for.
A 50-yard touchdown on the final play of the game, and then he blows the whistle and says, "Hey, the offense won." So I'm going to go.
80-foot putt.
Yeah, I'm going to go offense because I think that it's slanted toward the offense. I think the offense has the upper hand. I think the defense is going to look really good, and somehow, some way, the offense will just
but when you get to do this, and this is a sack, when you just get to do like that and that's a sack, that's a pretty good advantage for the defense.
Yeah, that's why the offense will end up taking the lead once the walk-on defense is in there.
Kenyatta Jackson.
So listen to all of our picks. If you can gamble on them because they are going to be correct. 50% of us just picked the offense, 50% of us picked the defense. We were all correct on our Masters picks, of course, last week. Might as well be right.
But did he even play?
We might be correct on all of the defense, or on all of the spring game picks as well. This was another rousing edition of Bold Predictions. Last one until August, but should be fun. Hope you enjoyed it. Thanks for watching. Thanks for listening. You will see the 40-year vet Tim May, Andy Backstrom, Matt Parker, and myself, Spencer Holbrook, in the Horseshoe on Saturday for the Ohio State spring game. Should be a great time. We will see you guys there.